What's up, guys? Welcome to the Walk On Warrior podcast, where we prepare and promote you young student athletes for next level success. I am your host, Coach Z. And listen, I'm super excited for our guest on today. Listen, this guy he's been doing this for many, many years, and he's got a lot of wisdom, a lot of guidance, a lot of understanding of what it takes to get to the next level and prepare to get to the next level. He is the founder of the Sdfnl magazine, as well as the Mbasports. He promotes recruiting. He promotes all about just getting you guys to the next level. And listen, without further ado, I'm just going to get him on here and we're going to have some fun with it. And let's let it go. Mr. Montel Allen, what's going on? Welcome
Hey,
to the
man.
show.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. I appreciate the intro. Yeah, like you said, I'm the co-founder of Sdfnl magazine and All-Star Game. As you can see, we're promoting the hats and everything in the event. And me and my partner Ruben Pena, we're both responsible for it. Just a platform to get kids to the next level. Another opportunity, and also kind of put them through the rigors of like what it really is like to be a part of a college program. When we have our event, we try to make sure coach the guys that are coach them like they're at the collegiate level, no longer at the high school level, because there is a huge transition. And treat them as is. You got to be able to be coachable on the fly when you're at the next level, and we give them a big taste of that during our All-Star game. So I
Yeah.
appreciate you, man. I appreciate you having us on there. I appreciate you as a part of the event. So let's rock and roll, man. Let's go.
Well, what's fun about it is that, with all the connections that you've made throughout your coaching career, as well as I would say somewhat post coaching career, and then getting involved in the recruiting, that is a great opportunity to get, kids in front of it, when you're doing the SD and FNL, not only the All-Star game, but also All-Star, the games, right? Preseason, or I guess it wouldn't be preseason, but it's, to kick off the kickoff classic, to get involved.
Yeah.
But having that connection is huge,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. The kickoff classic kind of brings a different dynamic to everything. So my partner Ruben, we were sitting around thinking about how can we give back to the community. And the kickoff classic is not our original idea. It came from another. They used to have the kickoff classic a long time before, but it went away. And then we decided to bring it back, but we brought it back with a twist. I have a soft spot in my heart for homelessness and people that are in need. And I was trying to figure out a way we can give back. I'm not a rich person. The idea was like to have these preseason games, game like conditions, and for all the fans to be able to bring a one canned good to be able to give to the San Diego Food Bank to provide to those people in need. And we've been very successful with it. We've been able to raise a couple tons of food every event. It feeds roughly anywhere from 700 to 1,000 families. And we try to really make sure the kids understand the power of them doing this and participating in an event like this. I don't know if anyone knows this, but one out of every 10 teen in California is homeless. I mean, that's a huge number,
Yeah.
man. One out of every 10 is homeless. So I let them know, man, that canned goods you're giving is feeding one of your teammates or two of your teammates, or maybe even three. That's
Yeah.
feeding their family for the next month or so and helping them out without them indirectly having to say anything or be, or expose themselves like that to be embarrassed. So I'm really passionate about that, man. I really believe, there should be no reason why kids should have to go through that type of situation and that hardship. So this event just kind of hopefully provides a little bit of relief and awareness. We want to make
Yeah.
sure it's aware and make sure the kids are aware, because this sport, man, is bigger than us, right? It provides so many different things, and this is just one avenue we show on how we can give back to our community.
Yeah, no, 100%. And so we're going to dig into all the good stuff when it comes to recruiting and getting kids
hmm
to the next level. But let's give the viewers a little bit of backstory of who you are, Coach, and kind of how you got yourself led up to what you're doing currently.
Yeah, so I'm a guy. I'm originally from Sacramento, California. I played football at Humboldt State University when they used to have a football team, Division II. I was a pretty good player. I ended up having my older son. Me and his mother, we had a baby. Obviously, she was from San Diego, so what gravitated me from San Diego. Her family's from San Diego, so I moved there, and I've been there ever since for the last umpteen years in that area. And I saw my son as my son was growing up, going through the Pop Warners and going through all these things and getting to high school. I saw the fall off, right? I saw talented players, but there was no other opportunity there for them to go. And there was another outlet that was promoting players, but he was sending most of his players to Division 1. It wasn't the Division 2 and
Yeah.
lower. So I really focused. I was like, man, there's an opportunity for this because I played the Division 2. I'm like, man, that's really good football. It's a great opportunity for some of these kids to be able to go and get their education and become and grow up. So I
Yeah.
started that pattern. I was like, let me focus on Division 2, and from that part, it evolved into the magazine, and then it evolved to the All-Star game. And
Yeah.
throughout the whole process, recruiting was come. Now I used to coach at La Jolla Country Day. I was a defensive coordinator at La Jolla Country Day for several years, and we had a lot of success. And
Yeah.
they were the ones to push me to go into this avenue. They were like, man, you got a knack for meeting coaches. You got a knack for kind of understanding the recruiting process. You should push. And they were the first people, man. Jeff Hustlers, who's the AD there now, a gentleman by the name of Mr. Ings, and I coached the son, Kevin Ings. They are the ones that catapulted me into being in this space and kind of learning it and embodying it. And then it just opened up so many doors, such as being on TV, being an analyst for high school, being a recruit. People say I'm a liaison. I think I'm just an information giver, and then and then so on, man. So that's
Yeah.
kind of how my background, how I kind of got here. And I relish in the moment, man. I think I enjoy helping kids and families. It's just, man, the process is so ever changing and so fast
Yeah.
that it's hard to keep up, and it's hard for families to keep up. So I hope to be a vessel of information for people to help them out.
Well, yeah, no, that's a really important point, what you were talking about. And it's we have very few folks that are in the actual field that are willing to essentially uh do it, let's just say, without pay.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah,
people that are just going to get into it for the love of it, right? Most coaches get into the game because they want to help. Maybe their kids in the program and they just want to be a volunteer, whatever.
yeah.
Coaches, newsflash, don't make a lot of money. And
No, no.
so being involved in what you and I are doing, I mean, there has to be a true love and burning desire for helping the young generation grow, develop, and hopefully move on, right?
Yeah,
And you have such a short amount of time, but we were talking about that. But like, you're trying to, limit your mistakes. But for someone like you
yeah,
and I, we're coming at it from a more comprehensive, like a holistic approach where we can say, all right, all you young student athletes, you have from here, this time to this time to get it done, hopefully not make a lot of mistakes, get your academics right, and line it up to where we can put you in a position to be successful and hopefully get to the next level. Because you and I both know that if you went in a room with 100 high school football players, I would say, 90+% of them would love to play beyond high school.
yep,
Not all, of course, but a good majority of them. But a lot of them don't have that education. They don't have the mentorship. They may be in those tough situations. And so that's what I respect the most about you and kind of the angle that you come from. And it's huge and it's so important and it's going fast, like you're saying.
mhm,
And it's even more important as we keep growing in this world that we live in because of broken families and everything of that nature. And what you were mentioning, kids going to school and then something happens, they fail, get bounced back, or something happens, then they quit.
yep,
You hear about bounce backs all the time, and me being at the JC level, but I got news for most of you viewers that are paying attention. Most kids just quit. They
yeah,
get a bad experience and then they just quit.
yep.
And that's our job, of course, to try to pick the pieces up or whatever. But I don't know if you had something you wanted to add to that, but that's huge. That
Yeah,
right
yeah.
there.
I think with me, let's clarify free. I do give out free information, but if you want me to go to work for you, I do charge. I charge you.
Well,
So I
you
do,
know
but
what I
I
mean.
mean that's because I got to put legwork in. But if you want the information, I'm more than willing to share this information with anybody and what
Yeah,
they need to know, and I'm an open book when it comes to information to give you. But you would have to do the work. That's
yeah,
number one, and number two, I think you're 100% spot on. People got to realize that first of all, the window of high school athletes, right, especially football, only a maximum of probably 7% every year is going to go play at the next level.
yeah,
And I'm being generous, as I think it's less than that, but about 7% of all high school senior football players are going to play at the next level. And that number's shrinking and shrinking more with the portal because now you have, we'll talk about that a little bit later on. But there's only 7%. So out of your team, mostly because everybody's an average size about probably 40, 50 kids, two are going to play at the next level. Out of that two, they're most likely not going to make it. They're not going to make it at that next level. I don't think kids understand how difficult it is to play college ball, but also they make it difficult. You make it difficult for yourself because you don't understand the time management, which you're not supposed to. But you know the time management is probably the biggest win. That's probably the biggest hurdle
Yeah.
they got to overcome. Then you got to understand the level of competition. Then you got to understand the playbook. Then you got to understand getting the coach's trust, and then all these other things kind of roll down. While maintaining your studies, and now this NIL things come into play, and all these other different things come into play. It's a really difficult process, and you're asking probably people that are probably the most mentally unequipped to handle all those things coming in at once. You're asking a 17 to 18-year-old to mentally compartmentalize all this information, all these things they need to do, all these actions when they're actually mentally weak, right? You're not asking
Yeah.
a 23 years old who's lived a little bit. You're asking a guy that just came from a set regimen, right? High school is set. You get up, you go, you do these things and everything. Now you're asking them to say, hold up, you got to be responsible for all this on your own. Like really, I
Yeah.
mean, literally, like you got to think. Like
Yeah.
if you think about it in that sense, it's like you're
Yeah.
asking somebody who's been mentally in a set regimen for the last 18 years of their life. They've been in a set regimen. They wake up at
Hmm.
a certain time. They go to school for up till 3 o'clock. They go to practice. They go home and they have some free time, and then they do it all over again. Well, anybody's been to college, it doesn't work that way,
Yeah.
right? It changes. There's a regimen, but the regimen is completely different from what you're used to. So you have to do that change. It's kind of got to be that change in lifestyle, which the adjustment is very hard for a lot of people. Um, and we got to do a better job equipping our kids for those things, for those transitions. Um,
Yeah.
I think an 18-year-old, 17-year-old, they're not very mentally strong. They're just not. And we say that because the law says they're adults at that point. But even though they're adults, they're really not because as a parent or as a guardian, you've been telling this person what to do for the last 17 years,
Yeah.
364 days, 23 hours, and 59 seconds. You've been a part of every decision they want to make. And then you all of a sudden say, well, now so you make your own decisions, you do what you want to do. And you almost cut them off. We're almost cutting the kids' legs off when they get there,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Well, and I think it's important because I mean we demand less out of kids these days. I mean,
Yes.
and it's really difficult because I mean it's like 65 to 70%. I think it's still growing from there as far as single parent households, and so you're dealing with a situation where mom's working, dad's wherever dad's at, and so now a kid's kind of growing up based on whatever his surroundings are, and so that's a good segue. I want to talk real quick. I want to talk about mentors.
Yep.
So if we're talking to parents, especially, but you young student athletes, let's talk a little bit about mentors and how important it is, because that group that may not make it to the college level or wants to play at the college level but doesn't have all the resources and anything like that, you're dealing with a situation where you say, well, I have nothing, so what do I do? So I think it's important that you have good friends, you have good mentors, good people around you, to help you guide you, regardless of your situation, right? I talked to shout out Jagger Giles. He's out at Idaho State, and we were talking
Yep.
about that coming from East County here in San Diego, and he didn't really have a whole lot, out here, and he just laid it out. What he just said, you know what, I want to be a next level student athlete, so this is what I'm going to do. And then I'm going to get myself around, people that can help me, whether it's academics,
Hmm.
anything on the field. He said he had very little, but he's like, we got a field. I have some cleats, and I got a couple friends that are on the same path or promoting what I'm doing. And so, listen, we're just going to go. We're going to do push-ups. We're going to do sit-ups. We're going to do
Hmm.
whatever it is to come off that baseline. And so I want you to talk a little bit about how important it is to have good mentors, but also how do you find a good mentor?
I think the first mentor is yourself, and that's being self-disciplined. That's the first mentorship. But we're in the information age, right? So you can get all the information you need, but you got to set yourself up some type of discipline. Like I'm gonna dedicate myself to doing these things and do it. I think when you're searching for mentors, I think obviously go to the people that your circle that are doing the positive things. You know, you know. I I personally, when I was in school, I surrounded myself around people that you would call nerds, because
Yeah.
nerds had the classroom information that I needed to be able to gather and gain. And I can ask them questions without sounding stupid in front of the class, right? I can ask them a question like, hey, man, I ain't understand. Can you explain that to me again? And they would be able to extend it. So that was me. I surrounded myself with people that were very smart in the classroom. I didn't hang around my football friends in class. I learned at an early age to decipher myself from that. And I think those are your other men. Those are your educational mentors you should be about. See how they do their homework. See the pattern. Do they go directly home and do their homework and follow what they do? Even make friends with them and to help them to help you do your homework. Like get into that habit of surrounding yourself around people outside your circle. That's not you need adult mentorship or especially in the sports. I always say gravitate to a coach. Like
Yeah.
I think kids don't understand how important it is to have a good relationship with your coach. It's so important for you to have that good relationship with your coach. Not only just from a standpoint of just learning the game and being around him and building that relationship, but also learning from him, having him teach you how to do certain things, how to and honestly, let's be honest with you, how to become a man, right? How to become a man and navigate through this stuff because playing football and is much pressures on you. Got to start to gain some thick skin, especially as you get to the recruiting process. I also say I encourage you to have a teacher as a mentor. Find your favorite teacher and who it is, and just go up and ask them, man, hey, can we have lunch one day? I really want to pick your brain. I'm looking for a mentor. I think kids nowadays are scared to ask those types of things, and it's okay. Like, go find your favorite teacher. Say, can we have lunch together?
Yeah.
He'll be so impressed that you asked him to have lunch. He's gonna share all the information that you're trying to gain, and then ask questions. I think that's the biggest downfall these kids have today. They don't like to ask questions because they feel that a question is a stupid question. You got to ask as many questions and take as much information as possible in. And if you don't understand it when you ask it the first time, ask it again and again until you understand it. You got to ask questions, especially too once you start to get into that mentor thing. Ask your coach questions outside. How does how's family life? I mean, it could be something easy. How's family life, coach? How do you raise kids? What'd you do when you were in college? How'd you approach this process? What are the steps that I need to take? Who do I need to talk to? What do I need to look at? Your nerd friends or your friends that are good in classroom. Ask them about the classwork and then ask them also how they maneuver. Man, how why do you don't how come you don't hang out with us? Ask them those questions, man, because there's information in all that to make you a better person. So you can figure out exactly what lane you fall in. Teacher, don't ask the teacher just about classwork. Ask them about everything in life. How did they go to college? What was their path? Did they play sports when they were young? All that information you get. That's just 3 mentors. Everybody can get 3 mentors. Yeah. Everybody has those friends. Yeah. And then you got your crew, right? You got your crew you hang out with. That's another set of your friends and your mentors that are examples. And then outside of that, if you don't have a father and one of them have fathers, ask their father, ask their parents. I think a really good thing is for a lot of young kids to be able to learn how to communicate and definitely learn how to interact with adults.
Yeah.
That's a big thing. Just the thing of looking a man in the eye and shaking his hand. A lot of kids don't know how to do that. I promise you, they don't know how to do it. They don't know how to shake your hand firmly and look in your eye and ask you questions and be attentive when you're talking to them, like looking them in the face and while you're discussing and having conversations with them. And those are little things that you got to pick up. I think kids need to just really start interacting with adults and understand that process. And hopefully people correct it when they do things wrong and then, and give them the right information. I think if you get those things in your life, man, you can have a really positive, fluent set of mentors that will navigate you through getting to the college process and beyond.
Well, it's important because think about it. If you could take any of these high school programs here locally, and there's going to be probably at least 2 or 3 guys on there that have had some kind of next level experience. Yep. And whether it's the right experience, it's good, it's bad, or they have a lot of information as far as how to, if you approach them and say, hey, this is what I'm looking to do, I want to get to the next level. What did you do? Maybe their situation may be a little bit different, but there's always something you can take away from it. And if you're humble and you don't have a lot of ego, and I don't know what it is, man, with young kids, it's just obviously you don't have a lot of experience in the world. But for me, getting rid of ego and getting rid of, just all that me stuff is, you really got to peel that layer back, because once you do, then you start opening a lot of doors. And like you said, with your class, with your teachers. And so when I went to Utah State and played Utah State, the first thing I did is I got 1 or 2 players, guys that were on the same road I was, total meatheads in the weight room, just grinders. but then also in the classroom with the professors. To this day, I can still call up a couple of professors and go hang out with them, and and that is a professional situation because they help you with your resume. And that's another thing too, is no one is really going to if you approach a teacher or somebody's dad or somebody like that, or just a mentor, or somebody you think might be a mentor, it's very rare that they're going to just be like, no, I don't have time for you. And you know what? If they do, then go find another one. Because I promise you, they're out there, like you and I mean, I'm going to tag us in everything that we do. And listen, with the information age, you can find somebody, you may not know them, but they're willing to help you and put you in a situation to be successful. And you just never know. I was 70, 80 pounds coming out of high school, didn't lift a weight, but I had good mentors and I had people pushing me in the right direction. And then, the rest is history. And that's what we're all about here we're trying to grab that 80% and put them into that 10%.
It's funny, man. You were talking about this because I just had a discussion with one of my good friends, Kevin Bracey. He's a motivational speaker, and we were talking about us in high school. And he told me that check this out though. So he was kind of in his family. He was a kid that was kind of displaced. So he moved in with another family. And the family had a young lady, Jeannie. I'll call her by her first name. And he said he learned how to be a great student by just watching her. Like he's like, because he's like, I was always a C student. I never had no confidence that I was smart. I didn't understand. But he saw her that she would come home after cheerleading practice, come home, do her homework before she did anything, and then she had a regimen. She would, eat dinner, take a shower, do all. He's like, man, I watched her, and then I was like, damn, I could do that. And he said I started implementing it. And he goes, man, I went from being a C student to being an A- to an A student, but just because I could see what she did, and I started just following what she did instead of being distracted. He was like, it's amazing if kids just kind of open their eyes, be open to different things, and be able to, and then again, also ask questions, man. I think that's our biggest detriment amongst our youth. They don't ask a lot of questions. And once you ask those questions and just say, hey, like you said, hey, will you be my mentor? Can you be some? And also be selective when you're doing that. Don't select the wrong mentor. Like, don't select that guy that you know is doing bad, or that guy that's just cool and he's getting by. Select a mentor that's kind of off your path to show you a different way to approach things and be able to look through different lenses to be able to get to the goal that you need to get to. So, I really encourage every kid, every young lady that's playing flag football, every male that's playing, please, man, go get a mentor and go ask some people some questions. It'll definitely better your chances.
Okay, so two things with that I want you to answer. So number one, how do you identify the right mentor? Number two, what would be the questions that you maybe ask yourself or you ask that mentor?
Number one, the identify a mentor, I want to identify someone that's doing something that I want to do. If he's getting an A in this class and I want to get an A in this class, I'm going to go sit by the guy that's getting an A in the class. Period. I want to know what he's doing. Please tell me, man, how do you do this? And I'll just start off with casual conversation, man, how do you understand this stuff so well? What are you doing to separate yourself from everybody else? How come you're getting an A and everybody else is getting a B? Or, kids are struggling. What do you see the biggest gap is between me and you? It might be just, and it might be just as simple as they read the material and you don't. I'm serious. It could be just that simple that
Or
they're
just
able to read
showing
it.
up.
Yeah, and you're not doing it. So I think, but you need to ask that question. If I'm approaching an adult mentor, my first thing I would say, I would see somebody that emulates the kind of person that I want to be. If I see somebody that's a professional businessman, I see him wear a suit every day, and that's what I inspire to be. I want to go talk to them, say, hey, I'm looking for a mentorship, and I'm just, I see you. I like the way you dress. I like the way you handle yourself. How did you get to that point? How did you come to where you're at in your life right now? What were the steps that you took? And then I would either take a very good, strong mental note, and I wouldn't be afraid. I would write it down. I'll write it down in front of them. What'd you say? Or record it. Now we got phones. You can record what they said and just listen to it. I think kids need to take time to invest in themselves, and the way you invest in yourself is getting information. You get information from everywhere around you. So why not go get the good information I want? Hey man, I see you, Coach Z. Man, Coach Z is dope, man. He's coaching. He's doing all these. He got a podcast. I want to know what he's doing. Hey, Coach G, man, I see you doing all these things, man. How did you do it? It's that simple. How did you do it? And then you're gonna be like, oh well, I started by doing this, and then there we go. Now I'm getting all the receptive information I need in order to get those things. but you got to break that barrier down to have that conversation and ask that question. I think, and that's where our kids need to get. Just have the courage to go ask the question and go meet somebody outside. And I encourage outside your circle. Don't, because if you hang around and you get the information from the same people in your circle, guess what? You're gonna be in the same situation. Go outside your circle and be in that uncomfortable zone and go talk to some people and hang out with some people that you never would, and talk to them and grab that information. And like I said, that'll give you the ability to look through a different lens. And once you have that ability, brother, you got your current lens and you're knowledgeable now. You got two different lenses to look through. You're on the right path.
Well, you notice none of that costs anything.
Nothing. Not a dime. Not a dime. Not 1 cent.
Well, and that's the thing too, is you'll have a kid that's just the first thing is once they feel that friction, then all of a sudden they're going to give you all those excuses of why they can't. And I always tell kids this. I say, it only takes one reason to get you to move forward. You're going to have thousands of reasons. But it just only takes that one time to just put your foot forward, or that door just being cracked open through courage and being humble, whatever. And then all of a sudden this whole world completely opens up to you. And, I think, once you get a hold of some of these mentors, you don't know who they are necessarily. You may not know their background, but all of a sudden you get to know them. And then all of a sudden, man, the possibilities can be endless. I've ran into plenty of guys. So quick story, when I was at Utah State, I was working out in one of the smaller gyms because I just don't like being, in the big, with all the kids everywhere at the field house. And this old guy rolls in there, has a hammer strength, shirt on. And of course, I'm one of those meatheads, want to get better, the weight room, I'm going to be everything I possibly can be. This guy comes up to me, just starts talking to me. And lo and behold, he was the president of the National Strength and Conditioning Association. And I'm like, wait, what? This is a total, God thing, right? It's like all the stars align. And then all of a sudden now I get certified. Now this is what I end up doing. And, so with that being the case, it just opens a lot of doors. But unless you have that courage, or even that you create opportunities through that courage, and so you're just knocking on all those doors. And so mentorship to me is huge.
It's crazy. People help people that ask.
Yeah.
Think about that. When you don't ask, no one's going to help you. People only ask people that ask. Yeah. Right. I mean, think about it. It's a very simplistic statement, but it applies to everything. People only help people that ask. If you ask for my help, more than willing to give it to you. If you don't ask for my help, my assumption is that you don't need my help, so I'm going to keep it moving. So I think people need to ask. You need to ask. Just ask the question. Ask for help. Ask for information. Ask till you can get to the point where you got enough to obtain your goal. That's facts. I'm not telling anything that this rocket science that's new under the sun, but people only help people that ask. So with that being said, you guys got to have the courage to ask. You have to, and ask. So you got to, and always it can't be within your comfort zone. Sometimes you're gonna have to ask people that are outside your comfort zone, and that's okay. Don't be afraid of the word no. If someone says no, just keep it moving and push it. But most people will help anyone that asks for help. They're gonna help them out.
That's a blessing if somebody tells you no. You end up moving on to somebody else, and then all of a sudden. Yeah, right timing, right place.
Absolutely,
all of a sudden it works.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So here with the Walk On Warrior brand, I talk about three things. There's three things. There's academics, there's the mentality, then there's the strength conditioning. Obviously, you've got the in class, you got the mental side, whether it's outside the field, on the field. It's just the grind you got to go through. But then also the strength, the physical side of things. Let's talk about academics.
Yes.
Right. Every kid, especially here in San Diego, has a cell phone, has air conditioning. But with the cell phone, you have access to the knowledge, you have access to information. So with the academics, talk about how important it is. Let's say that a college coach, so now you're maybe a junior, maybe you get a little bit through the process. Let's talk about how important the academics are. That's number one thing.
Yep.
I'll try to unpack it, but let's start with
Yeah.
academics.
Truthfully speaking, it starts your freshman year when the day you step on a high school campus. That's when your academia starts, and you gotta do good off the beginning, from the beginning.
Yeah.
Obviously, make yourself knowledgeable what clearinghouse is, so you can take all the right classes. That's very important, but mainly make sure you start off to a good start your freshman year, because if you start off bad your freshman year, it's going to be awfully hard to catch up. Awfully hard to catch up. And for me, as if I was a recruiter coming in, I want to see a kid that's been grinding since his freshman year all the way to his junior year now, when the time I'm going to recruit him, all the way, and finish up strong through his senior year. Those things are so important, because one, it shows me that he has self discipline. He's disciplined enough to go take his. He's disciplined enough to do his homework. He's disciplined enough to get good grades. He obviously takes time to prepare for class and
Yeah.
being there. That shows a level of discipline that I'm looking for in my college athletes. So when people tell you, "Oh, it doesn't start till your junior year, or your sophomore year," that's BS. It starts your freshman year. As soon as you step on the high school campus, you're starting to take classes. Those are the
Yeah.
times you need to be able to do it. That's how you need to prepare yourself, and you need to maximize. IEP students, the same thing. Even if you're an IEP student and they got you in modified classes, it matters that you get good grades in those modified classes. It really is. And if you're having trouble in regular classes and you need to be in modified classes, trust me, go get the modified classes in good grades. Um, I also believe there's this myth that we got to take all these honor classes and all this other good stuff. I'd rather for you to have an A in regular English than to struggle in honors English. It looks 10 times better on your transcripts. I don't
Yeah.
really care. To be honest with you, college. You've been your coach. If I look at it and says, "Oh, honors English," okay, so what? And if it's a C or C minus, I'm like, "Oh, that's not doesn't look too good," especially if I'm at the higher level. But if I say, "Oh, he got an A in English," damn, kids must be pretty. He's doing his thing in regular English. So I think
Yeah.
kids need to set themselves up for success, especially as athletes, and not set themselves up for failure. Don't take Even if you're a really really bright kid and your GPA is a little bit struggling, take the regular class and get an A in that class and make yourself better. Kids that are struggling in classes, I think it's very important that you need to either get a tutor, build a relationship with that teacher, and figure out what you need to do successful. If you do happen to fail a class or you struggle in class, guess what? You need to make that class up as soon as possible, either in night school or in summer school. You have to. They have to be made up, because bottom line, that's going to be a difference maker for me. If I see a kid that's the same size as you, same ability as you as far as we ranking them on the board, and I got to come to a decision to make, the next thing I'm going to do the academia. And if one academia is better than the other, guess what? I'm picking the one that's better, because that shows that he's less of a liability.
That's the important point right there at the end.
Yep.
Because when a kid ends up getting that opportunity, or let's just say a coach comes to the school and, is really putting time and effort into getting to know you as an FBI agent would be, right?
Yep.
Then they say, okay, well, coach, what's the first thing after this is just kind of a funny thing, but so when you're dealing with these college coaches and they come back to say the second time after they get the database and they've been doing all their recruiting, they're looking for specific players. But what's the first thing they ask for when they're getting ready to really dial it in as far as scholarships and giving opportunities? What's the first thing they do?
First thing you're gonna say, what are his attributes, right? What's his physical attributes? Is he tall enough? Is he big enough? Second thing, what's his grades like? It's every coach or recruiter I deal with. The first thing I'm like, oh, how tall is he? How big is he? How fast is he? What does he look like? After they get to that part, what's his grades? Does he have good grades? Is he qualifier? Is this that? What's his major? And then after that, which is another part of academia, but kind of not, is your character. What kind of kid is he?
Yeah.
Does he take the initiative? Is he a kid that sits back? Is he a quiet kid? So those things, and people say, oh, that doesn't, but it does coincide. Your character and your behavior is correlated with how your grades are. If you're a funny, practical joker, loudmouth kid in the classroom, guess what? Your grades probably reflect to be pretty low, because you're always causing distractions. If he's a focused kid and he's quiet and he keeps his head down, he does his thing, 9 times out of 10, those are pretty good students.
Yeah.
So I think and to answer your question, that's the order it goes in. How big is he? And all that stuff. And then I want to know what his grades are like. And I, sometimes I hate to admit this, but sometimes I gotta go like, oh, well, he's got good grades, Coach, I think he's pretty good. I think he's around the 3.0 range, and the kid will have bad grades. And I'm like, shit, dang, wish I wouldn't have told the coach that. Or I'll tell the coach, if I really don't know, coach, you need to request his transcripts. And I tell coaches all the time, I say, you'll know how good his grades are by how fast he's going to send you his transcripts. Outstanding students will send you his transcripts like that.
Yeah.
A student is struggling. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they'll even ask what else I need to do. What else do you need, coach?
Exactly.
Because I don't know. I always get a kick out of this. So, when I approach kids and I get in their space when I'm asking questions, because then a kid has to make a decision on whether he's going to lie or he's not. And we talk about, we're talking about earlier, but honesty and being as humble as you possibly can when it comes to these coaches is everything, because it really hurts the reputation of you, your coaches, the program, and it really does all that considered. And that will be somewhat of a virus that'll go to all these other coaches that may be interested in you.
Yeah.
And coaches obviously talk. And, I always ask it, how are you doing in your classes? I like small talk. I like to just small talk kids, especially when I recruit. It's like, how are you doing in class, whatever. But I get into a proximity to where I know whether or not they're telling me the truth or not. Exactly. And because as well as I do, and I'm going to look right at the camera when I say this, all you young student athletes never do anything wrong. You're always doing good in your classes. And the fact of the matter is, when a coach shows up and he asks for that transcript, that's going to decide whether or not you're getting that opportunity. And in your lies or whatever, come on, man, the transcript does not lie. We need to have a shirt, coach. That's what you got to have on the back of your shirt.
That is true. Transcripts don't lie. Exactly. And that's a quote we need to put on when you tag this. And kids they just gotta understand, man. I mean, I would have more respect for a kid telling me he's struggling in school and that he's having problems with it than a kid that's going to lie to me about it and I find out about it later on. Because the bottom line, if you tell me you're doing good and I move on with the process, you wasted that much of my time when I go to find out that you had bad grades or whatnot. And this is parents need to watch their kids' grades. Parents need to be involved in the process. I hate that when I'm not involved and I don't understand. Well, then that's your fault. The reason why your kid is not getting recruited is partially your fault because you're not involved as a parent. You need to monitor their grades. If you really want this for your kid and your kid wants it for themselves, again, you're asking a 14-year-old, right, to be responsible like that. How are you going to be like, oh, he just does it on his own and I'm not worried about it? That's BS, man. You got to be a parent in their life and hold them accountable at that age and stay on top of them at the age of 13, 14 when they're coming in as freshmen all the way through so they can understand. If they do this right, that gives them one more reason not to say no when they recruit you. Yeah. Remember, recruiting is not just about offering a kid. It's a process of elimination. I got to figure out a way to eliminate this kid to be on my board, not to entice him to be on my board. Because guess what? There's 10 Coach Z's out there. Yeah. All in just California alone. Now I magnetize that times across the nation. There's hundreds of Coach Z's I can get. What's going to make Coach Z different from anybody else from me landing them and getting them? The only difference is this is my recruiting area and I found him. So now I got to figure out the situations. Okay, he's great enough. I already know I want him. He's a talented player. But now I got to figure out the issues of how to eliminate him. Does he have bad grades? Does he have a bad attitude? Now I'm starting to figure out see what I have to do to eliminate the process in order to select someone either above him or beneath him and figure it out. So I believe kids need to be cognizant and parents got to get involved. They have to help monitor those kids' grades.
Well, you just mentioned something that I think people are going to be like, well, what does he mean by big board? So explain what that means. The college big.
So anybody doesn't know about college recruiting. Basically, what happens is all the coaches on there have a region that they recruit, and you select the players you want out of the region. You put them on this board, and then from that, typically every Tuesday they watch film on these players, and then they start to rank them where they want them on their recruiting list based on, again, talent, attributes, and then whatever criteria they want to have. And then from that, it's now to start the elimination process, right? Okay, we got 50 receivers on the board. Okay, cool. We got 10. We got 10 from everybody's region. Let's rank all 50 where we want them, and then we'll start the recruiting process from there. and then typically 50% would eliminate themselves, right? Grades would be bad, all that stuff. So now we're down to 25. Now on that 25, let's say they're all equal, same speed, same height, everything's equal. All right, I only got 2 scholarships. I got to figure out to narrow that 25 down to 2. Well, you're going to lose 50% of those because they're going to select different schools.
Yeah.
So you're now down to 12. I got to figure out that 12 to knock that down to 2. And they're all talking about they're interested in my school. Now we go through the process of elimination. Grades. Is his hands big enough? Does he move fast enough? Is he quick twitch? You know what I'm saying? You start to go through all those things, and that's how that board gets narrowed down to 2. And once those first 2 commit, guess what? Regardless of whoever else is out there, I'll erase them off the board. That I'm no longer interested in them. So
Yeah.
the big board is where all the players that are interested in recruiting are listed on that board, and you start to kind of evaluate them in the process.
So this might be an interesting segue, but anytime I give speeches and I'm talking to schools, well, I'm at a school and I'm talking to young student athletes and parents, the first question I ask, so we're talking about big board and getting recruited and whatever, that could be all levels. That could be D1, D2, all the way down.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the question, well, first of all, if you ask a young student athlete, they all say that the end all goal, the end of the rainbow goal of the end of rainbow is always be Division One.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the question I always ask everybody is, I always say, you need to ask yourself, how good are you? Okay. Because with the big board, there's only so many slots. Okay. So if you don't understand your talent level, the timeline, and having all these things put together and be ready to go when the time is right, it doesn't really matter your situation. Now,
right.
I would just say for you to piggyback off of that, how good are you? Let's talk about opportunities. Talk about Division One, Division Two, all the way down, and opportunities every recruiting cycle, meaning scholarships that they have available. Because you may think you're Division One, but are you really good enough for that? Because you mentioned earlier about D2 or whatever. There's opportunities everywhere. I talked to Cesar Rivas, the other day, and we're talking about numbers now, right? Especially when it gets past that first signing date and so on and so forth. The opportunities that are available are. Go ahead.
Jeez, man. So let's be honest with you. High school kids right now are screwed. They're screwed because the portal has just decimated you guys' opportunities. And I'll give you an example. Where's a school, and I'll use Colorado because Deion's quoted to saying this online, where he used to have 20 available scholarships for high schools, it's now down to maybe 3 high school students. 17 are no longer are going to ever be recruited from high school. They're going to take them down to the portal some form of fashion. So now your options or your opportunities are very, very limited. Now, at the Division One level, it's super hard and it's super hard. Division One, well, let's start. Power 5. Power 5, you got to be an elite player.
What's Power 5?
Explain Power 5 is the Alabamas, the SECs, the ACCs, the Big Ten, and it should say Power 4. It's not Power 5 anymore. It's the Power 4. So the Big Tens and all those guys. Those are the guys that are definitely destined. They feel are going to go to the NFL. That's basically the semi-pro league in college. With that, it's very tremendous. You must be a top prospect. And what I mean by top prospect, I'm not saying you get the best on your team. I'm not saying you're the best in your area, in your division, your all conference. I'm not even saying you're best in Southern region. You have to be the best of the best to go to Power 5. And now with the resources everyone has, it's a lot easier to find that stud guy that's in the middle of Wyoming that no one heard about. It's so easy to find him now, where it was hard. It was before you just go get a kid from the city because you think he's going to be better because he played against better competition. So now the limit is it's very small possibility to get into the Power 5 unless you're an elite player. And even from that being that elite player, you got to be able to beat out the other elite players in order to land those scholarships. So you got to think. I think Power 5 or Power 4 now is, I think it's 50 teams. So out of 50 teams, they're only taking 3. That means there's only 150 spots at Power 5 available. That's it. From high school. That's it. 150. And you got to be one of the top 150 in the nation. Not top 50 in California or San Diego or wherever you live at. You have to be one of the top 150 kids in the nation. And you got to be able to be the position of a need, what they need. So you could be one of the best running backs in the nation. But guess what? If none of those teams need a running back, they're not going to sign you. There's
Yeah.
no need for you.
Yeah.
So it has to be also what they need as far as what positions they're trying to fill. You could be a kicker, and everybody and their mama wants you because everyone needs a kicker, right? So I think you got to figure out the need basis. I think one of the things I tell kids, especially running backs and linebackers, and if any of them are listed on here, learn how to be a long snapper. I promise you learn how to be a long snapper and you know
It's
how to play a position.
it's true. Yeah.
I'm just being honest with you. You know how to be a long snapper and you know how to be and you know how to play your position. You can count probably on a scholarship, especially if you're the right size.
Yeah.
You can and your right speed. You can probably count on a scholarship because those are very rare positions to have. So that would increase your probability or your opportunities to go. That's just a little secret I give you. Now let's
Yeah.
go down to non-Power 5 Division 1 schools.
Yeah.
Same thing. Probably maybe 3 or 4 people they're going to take out of high school. They're really not going to take a mass amount of high school kids. You may see one school take a lot, but the law averages is saying it's probably around 4 or 5. Now D2 is going to take more of an abundance of high school kids because they're waiting for fallbacks. Typically, and I'll get to that. I'll explain that in a minute. So they're going to take an abundance of high school kids. NAI is going to take an abundance of high school kids. Division 3 is going to take majority of high school kids. Kind of the way it is. And I don't know the exact numbers, but they'll take more. So there's more opportunities when you go from Division 2 and below. There's more opportunities for high school kids to be able to go play. Now, with that being said, this is the caveat you got to understand. There's a trickle down effect with the portal. So basically, if you played Power 5 and you're in the portal, you're probably going to fall down to Division 1. If you're Division 1 and you played in the portal, you're probably going to fall down to Division 1 AA. Division 1 AA, you're going to fall down to D2 and so on and so on and so on. The crazy part about it, there's over 10,000 kids in the portal.
Yeah.
So now your kid in high school wanting to go to Division 2, but now there's probably out of that 10,000, 6,000 from a Division 1 in the portal. They're going to fall down to Division 2 and take a lot of those people's spots. And you gotta look at a lot of rosters now. You see rural schools that are in rural areas, and I'll use Southwest Minnesota State as one. I know when my son was playing there, they had 11 Division 1 fallbacks.
Yeah.
That's crazy to say, but 11 Division 1 fallbacks, and that's just one school. Now you can imagine everyone in that conference, which was a 14-team conference, if they all had 11, that's 140 spots that were slotted for high school kids, gone, because Division 1 fallbacks took those scholarships. So it's not a lot of opportunity. That's why I tell you guys, 7% will get an opportunity to play at the next level, and out of that 7%, a lot of them are not going to make it just because of the portal and other opportunities that are there, and also them being indecisive. Right? They're thinking they're going to Division 1 and they're not Division 1 players. That scholarship's going to be snatched and taken away from you because somebody that knows is going to take advantage of that opportunity. I believe a lot of kids are their own enemy. They believe in everybody that doesn't know anything about football. They believe in what they're saying, and they don't take advantage of the opportunities that are in front of them. And that's sad. Go ahead.
Well, think about it like this. Okay, so at the Division 1 level, you have 85 scholarships, right? So that's not 85 new scholarships every recruiting cycle. That's only maybe, I don't even know.
25 at most, 25 max, pretty much, right?
Right. And there's a lot of mixing and matching that goes on, right? Mm-hmm. And you're talking about, let's say, for example, the top 150 guys. Now, every school in the country is fighting for those guys. But do they need your position? There's all those different things that kind of go into it. But listen, the gist of it is there's just not a lot of spots. Now, I go back to that question that I was asking you a minute ago. How good are you? Are you that player? So when you go,
you've been in my All-Star game, and I don't know if you were there for my opening speech, but I tell every kid, you need to self-assess yourself. You really need to ask yourself how good you are. And actually be brutally honest. You have to be brutally honest when it comes to the recruiting game or where you are. And parents need to be realistically and brutally honest with their child. If your son is 5'8", a 5'8" corner, guess what? Son, I don't think you're going to play Division 1 football because the average now is 6'1", right? You have to be, unless you do something exceptionally well, and I mean you got to be exceptionally well at it, you're not going to get that. You're not going to get that spot. I think they need to be definitely and brutally honest when it comes to those types of things. And you as a player have to be brutally honest. And coaches need to be brutally honest. I can't stand when I go to these high schools and they're talking about, oh, this dude's a stud, he's a player. And they say, oh, you can't measure his heart. Yeah, as a college coach, yes, I can measure his heart because it's my paycheck. So I can measure his heart. I can measure his heart because if he doesn't pan out, I'm going to get fired. And you know that the higher the level you go in that recruiting in those schools, the more that is more prevalent. So yeah, you can be a great player and have all the heart in the world. And matter of fact, you can have all the talent in the world. But the bottom line is you don't meet the attribute. You don't meet the measurables. And when you don't meet the measurables, it's very hard for me to be able to sell you in a room when I got 9 other guys that are meeting the measurables.
Yeah.
So kids, parents, and player and themselves all need to have an honest assessment of themselves. Coaches need to be honest with their kids where they're going to be. And kids, if you don't know where you stand, go online and ask, what is the average size person in your position at the Division I level? And if you don't meet those, or if you're not in that range, I'm not saying you can't make it. There's guys that overcome it all the time. I'm saying you need to have an honest conversation with yourself. Okay, if I'm not making those measurables, those sizes, man, what is the reality of how I'm getting in? Then you could do a search. How many O linemen are under 6 foot? They'll tell you. It's how many O linemen. It's not very many. And typically they only play center. They don't play guard or tackle.
Yeah.
So if you're under 6 foot, that's where you're going to fall in. And are you a center right now? Are you currently working on snapping the ball? Are you working? So man, it's a. People think it's just a shoot. Oh, you got to just be talented to get in. No, it's actually calculated the way they recruit. Very calculated on the things that they do. So that when you're very calculated, obviously you eliminate a lot of your options because you want to narrow it down.
Well, I think it's a great opportunity to. Well, we're going to talk about camps in a minute, but I think it's important to understand those numbers when you're talking about 85 scholarships. And then you go to D2 and it's 60, whatever it is.
I believe,
Yeah, but it keeps going down as you go. D3 has 0, NAI, JUCO, whatever. But you got to just have a reality check and be realistic on what you're all about, what you can do. And I'll tell you right now, I would bet there's probably no research out there, but the majority of guys that say they're D1 and they still keep in contact with those D2, D3 NAIA schools, and they have that humbleness to them, they end up going to those schools.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You see guys fall back all the time, and then they have a better time. They have a better career. I remember I remember there was a player that I helped. He went to Youngstown State. He played, and he had offers to Division IIs. And I remember he finished playing at Youngstown State. And I remember him just having a conversation. He was like, I wish I would have took the D2 offer. I wish I would have went Division II. And I said, why? He goes, because I think my experience in football would have been a lot better. And I was like, that speaks volumes to me because, again, like you said, if you have a little bit of humbleness to yourself and you're trying to maximize your opportunity, you figure out exactly where you fit in. And this guy had a successful career at Youngstown State. It wasn't like he was a scrub or a bench player. He actually played. He just felt, he's like, my experience at Division II would have been a lot better, regardless. And I think a lot of kids feel that way. A lot of kids feel that way. That going down is not necessarily bad. And let's be honest, you got to be honest with yourself. And this is the question I tell every kid to ask themselves. Do you want to be a part of a team or do you want to play for a team?
Yeah.
Because there's guys that are on Alabama that never will play. And great, they're playing on Alabama. And there's guys at D2 or D3 that are taking every snap and playing for 4 years. Do you want a guy that has an opportunity to be actually on the field in 4 years? Or do you want to be a guy that's sitting on the bench behind someone at USC and very rarely get to play? Because we already know snaps go by like that. Your snaps on the football field are very limited. There's an average of 85 snaps per game. You got that times 10 games for 4 years. Bro, there's only 3,200 snaps you're pretty much going to take.
Yeah.
A little bit, 3,200 plus snaps you're going to take as you go through college. Now, out of that 3,200 snaps, how many do you actually want to play? Do you want a person that plays 3,000 or do you want to be the person that plays less than 100 and just say you were a part of a team? The experience, you got to ask yourself that, is that the experience that you want? And kids don't ever deep dive into that, I think. And again, we're asking young people to process that, right? We're asking them to process that without any guidance. And I think coaches and definitely parents, and I say more so than parents than anybody, have to be that voice in the ear and that person that can guide them in the right direction and figuring out what they want. Because most parents know what the child wants, whether you're single or a double family or a household. You know what your child wants, or you kind of understand where your child comes from. You got to stick with them through this process. You have to.
Yeah. Well, and it's important that so what we were just mentioning, it's like, are you good enough? And anytime I talk to a lot of the high school coaches, talk to the collegiate coaches, they always bring up a phrase that you have to bring up, and it's, are you is it the right fit
Oh,
for the
yes.
school? It has to be the right fit. I'm going to drop Brad Cagle's name. Listen,
Yep.
Brad ended up, quarterback, ended up going to Southwestern, ended up going to Bethel, just blew it completely apart. Obviously, he was better than that level, but it was the right fit. And to
Yep.
this day, and now he's coaching his whole life. So you look at it in terms of, are you good enough? And is it the right fit? Right.
Yep.
And then you, I think on top of that, have to have non-negotiables. Right. And we'll talk about that. So what is a non-negotiable? So when you're trying to decide on a school, let's just say you are blessed right now to have a coach come to your school and say, what kind of players do you have? They stay on top of you. Now they're coming by that second time and they're like, we know his name. What's his interest in us or whatever. You have to be, when you're in front of these coaches, it's all about understanding what the right fit is. Now, with that being the case, you have to have non-negotiables. When a coach comes and visits you, let's talk about visits. It's a good segue. So coaches, typically the first contact is usually at your high school, right?
Yep.
They want your information. They want to keep in touch with you, so on and so forth. So when a coach comes and visits you, you have to have certain things that you cannot, there's no negotiating. Academics, off the field, on the field, strength conditioning. There's certain things that you can basically sit down with your family and say, hey, what do we want out of this experience? Because it's 4, maybe 5 years. Obviously, there's a portal. I'm not promoting getting out of a school. I think doing your best to stay at that school as much as possible and really do with what you said you're going to do, regardless of coaches leaving, because you're not going there. You don't need to be going there because of a coach. Dude, that's crazy. But anyway, so let's talk about visits. Let's talk about when schools come to your school. How do you conduct yourself when you are in a room with a coach? And then also on top of that, what are some questions to
Oh,
ask
yeah, absolutely.
coaches? Okay.
Absolutely. I think the first thing you need to do when you go in there and meet a coach, you should have your transcripts with you. You should have a copy of transcripts with you to be able to hand to the coach. It's number one. And then as you meet, the coach is going to give you a spiel on the school. He's going to give you a sales pitch. What's his name? What's the school all about, and all that stuff. I think several questions you need to ask. The first one would be, one: do you offer scholarships? Because you got to depend on what it is. What scholarship? Do you offer scholarships for my position? You know, the positions that I play. How many scholarships are available for my position? How many kids are you taking in the portal at my position? I think the more specific questions a kid can ask a coach and talk to him about, it is, because you're talking about your future. They're talking about investing in you. So you got to get as much information as you possibly can in that 30-minute meeting you have with that coach, or that 20-minute meeting with that coach. And I think, again, kids are afraid to ask questions. I think you need to ask those questions. How many, where would I fit on your board right now if you put me on your board, coach? For my class. If there's an opportunity, when are visits? Do you guys have a camp coming up that I can attend? Not a mega camp, but a team camp, a school camp that I can attend to be able to showcase my talent. How can I, if you need additional information, how can I get in contact with you? It's almost like it's an interview that you have to be able to sell yourself to this coach, and vice versa. He has to sell himself to you. So those are the questions I would ask, I would be engaged with. Now, if we comes back for the second visit and we're talking again, and you kind of know each other, the next questions I'm asking, okay, coach, or do you guys plan on offering me? If so, when? And then after that, once you offer me, is it a committable or non-committable offer? And what I mean by that, if people don't understand, a committable offer is something that they're really dedicated to you. They're going to wipe that position from the board. They say they got you in their school. A non-committable offers mean they want to keep you hanging, basically, or keep you there. Yeah, we're interested, but if we find someone that's better, we're moving forward with them, and that scholarship that we offer you is voided. Period. So you have to ask that and understand where you stand with coaches. I think once you start asking questions like that, they know that you're serious about what's going on. They know that you understand the process, and that from that point on, they know they have to be straight up with you and tell you, and try to be as honest as they possibly can when you're discussing the possibility of you joining their team, being a scholarship person. And I would tell my kids when they were being recruited, at the end of the conversation, I'm like, Coach, I appreciate everything you said to me. I think it's a wonderful opportunity for myself, The only thing I ask is for you to be honest with me, and I'll be honest with you throughout the entire process.
Yeah.
And then we can go from there. Whether good, bad, or ugly, we'll be honest with each other. If I find another school that I think is a better fit for me, you'll be the first person I call to tell you, hey, I think coach will go in a different direction. I would expect that same respect in return. If you would call me and say, hey, we got to find a better player, I think you need to keep shopping yourself around. And
Yeah.
and the crazy part about, there's nothing wrong with that. People think, oh, that's a failure. That's a failure. No, that's open, honest dialogue you have with another adult, with an adult man, about an opportunity that's possible for you. And then you will know, are you hanging on to that till the signing day? Or I can go ahead and move on and keep shopping myself because I know this is shaky. This might not actually happen. Those are the best questions I can tell a kid to ask. And those are the kind of questions I tell kids to prep themselves with when they go in there and they meet these coaches. Because that's very important. I think I had another part of the question about camps, right? You want to talk about camps?
I got you.
Yeah.
So how does a young student athlete present themselves? Let's talk about first impressions and how important that is, and show engagement with a coach when you. So you don't have your transcript, but a coach wants to come and just have a dialogue conversation.
Mm-hmm.
They put it in their video, whatever it is. Talk about first impressions and how important it is to be engaging with coaches.
One, you show respect to every coach that comes see you. And I know a lot of kids big up when a Division III coach comes in the room, or a school they're not interested in. They'll come in the room and they'll try to big up them, and they'll give them that bad body language, right? That body language is not presentable. Like, you don't want to be there. You need to treat every coach like they were Nick Saban. Shake his hand, be very attentive to what he's saying, and be engaging in the conversation. And always at the end of every conversation, get their contact information. And once you're done with that contact information, guess what? You get on your phone, you find this email, you send them an email and tell them, thank you for taking the time out of your day and opportunity to speak with me in my school. I look forward to speaking with you. And I can tell you that goes so much further than the kid going there, just sit down, hey coach, ha ha ha, laugh, giggle, and not being very engaging and going. Again, things that we talk about, you need to teach kids how to look. Stand there, shake his hand, look him in his eye, tell him it's nice to meet him, and introduce yourself. Basically, hi Coach Z, how you doing? My name is Montel Allen. Thank you for coming out and speaking to me. And then he's gonna say, hey, yeah, what's going on? Hey, I'm just in class sitting down, and I'm sitting down. He's like, hey, I watched your video. I really like you a lot. Great, coach. What school are you actually from again? Okay, yeah. I haven't seen you guys play before, but I've heard a lot of good things about you. You know, especially your academia, or especially your football team. You know, what direction are you guys going in? Man, I'm glad you guys are looking at somebody like me. You have to be engaging and having a conversation with them, and letting them know that you're open to whatever opportunity they may present from you. Because the key is that coach that is that D3 right now, he may get promoted and go to a Division I.
Yep.
And the better impression you make on him, guess what? You know, I met this interesting kid, man. He's a project kid, but you know what? He's in such and such school. Man, kid handled himself professionally. He's the kind of kid we want. He has the kind of character that we want. I'll rush back and get him. And if people don't believe me, it happened before. I know a kid got recruited by St. Thomas. Everything. I mean, no, he got recruited by South Dakota, University of South Dakota. Everything. Boom. It's great. La. Everything's good. They wanted to offer him. They wanted to fly him out. All of a sudden, the kid ghosted South Dakota, and the recruiting coach decided to take another school back east. Oh, I'm committed to what's the name back east, blah, 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 blah. Guess who his coach was when he got to the school back east?
Yeah.
The same coach that was recruiting him in South Dakota.
Yeah.
And he said the relationship started off rocky already. Like, if he would have been man enough to call him and just say, hey, hey man, thank you for everything. Thank you for the opportunity. But I think I talked with my family. We decided this would be a better fit for me. I'm going to go ahead and go here. That's a complete different situation than ghosting the kid, sending in bad vibes, and then just go somewhere and then they end up running to each other. So you never know what paths you're going to cross in this recruiting world, because it's very small. Even you guys people think college football is very big. You got to think about it. There's only like 700 schools, right? Yeah. There's only 700 schools. That means only 700 head coaches. That means there's only 700 recruiting coordinators. They all know each other, or they know someone that knows someone within that industry. So you got to be careful who you do. And I would encourage kids, please be engaging. And if you don't know how to do it, practice with your parents. Practice with your little brother. It may be funny, Say, ask your little, tell your little brother, hey, nice to meet you, and kind of but you got to have that dialogue and be comfortable in that dialogue and be engaging with that coach, because that's very impressionable, because a lot of kids aren't engaging. They go in
Yeah.
those rooms and just sit there and just flop down and just want to watch film. Thank you, coach. Cool. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then they want to go back and post it on social media and go in classroom. Yeah, such and such came and visited me and blah, blah, blah. That's not impressive. The impressive part is you were able to engage in that coach, talk to that coach, have your stuff prepared for that coach, get his
Yeah.
contact information, follow up, say thank you for the time that you. Those things are impressible. Those are impressionable things you do on a coach.
Yeah.
So kids need to take notes, man. You got to be engaging when you meet with these guys.
Well, and that also carries over to when a coach, say, wants to bring you on a, unofficial or an official visit too, right? None of this is all of a sudden different than one or the other. They all really carry over to each other in any capacity. So let's talk about what not to do.
Oh man,
What do you got?
not to do. Clean your social media up. Number one.
Well, no. Hold on. So what not to do in a visit?
On the visit. Oh, on the visit,
Yeah.
man. First of all, in a visit, no drinking, no smoking, none of that. Don't do any of those types of things. I know, and it'll be enticing, especially if you're doing that during season and the team's there and they want to show you out and they got this guy that's showing you around as a recruiter. Don't do it, because sometimes it's a test. It's a test to see where you're at. Don't drink it, don't smoke. 2, make sure you're always on time. Don't make coaches wait. If you're saying you're going to be in the lobby for them to pick you up at 9 o'clock, you need to be down there at 8:50. Show that you can be prompt to things and meetings and be there on time and be ready to go. Even if they are late, you don't be late. You're not late. Make sure when you're on the tour of talking, make sure if you don't have a major, just select a major and go talk to that group.
Yeah.
That dean of that study that you want to be. The reason being, they know that you have direction when you do there. Don't say, "Oh, I don't have a major. I don't really want to do it, and it's going to be boring." No, say, "Hey, coach, I'm kind of interested in business. Can I talk to the dean of business or somebody in business to get an understanding what I need to do to complete the major?" That shows that you're engaged and you're willing to be invested in that school.
Yeah.
And then the last question, after you go through all that, the wells and whistle, the whistle and bells, and going out to dinner and having all that, you need to go back to your room and digress. And I always say this: write 10 things you like about the school, 10 things you don't like about the school, and can you go to the school if the football wasn't there? If football wasn't a part of the program and they just say go to the school, can you see yourself going to the school? And be honest with yourself. And if the answer is no, then that might not be a right fit. And I don't care if it's Division 1 or Division 8, doesn't matter. If you can't see yourself without football going to that school, you got to ask yourself if it's the right fit after you do all those things. If it's yes, then it's probably the right place for you to go. If it's no, not saying you negate it, you just got to go back and think about what's going on and figure out and discuss and debrief your parents what's going on. To tell them, hey, these are the things I like about it, these are the things I don't like about it. I got to wonder if this is a great opportunity. All this is an investment in yourself.
Yeah.
Really take the time. But the things you don't do, you're not late. You don't smoke, you don't drink.
Yeah.
You try. You don't get in no fights. Don't get in no arguments. Don't tweet out. Don't tweet out a lot of unnecessary things. Tweet out, hey, I'm visiting the campus, and keep it like that. Don't tweet out, I'm here at this party. Don't tweet out all this other crazy stuff that at the campus. Definitely don't tweet out anything negative about the school while you're there. Keep your social media views to very minimal. Just say that you're there, you're visiting, and so on and so on. Keep it as professional as possible. Professional as possible, and that's something parents should be able to help with. Keep this. These are business trips. These aren't trips to go have fun, and that's the one thing you got to understand. These are all business trips. So when you're on a business trip for your company, you must be on your best behavior. You need to approach this the same exact way. You're on a business trip. I need to approach this with my best behavior. That means I can't do those things I normally do. And I'll be another thing. We'll just take it one step forward. Meeting young ladies while you're on these trips, which is very prevalent as people know, especially when I was recruiting, meeting young ladies on these trips. You need to be very, very, very careful who you're meeting, because sometimes they are high school girls. I'm gonna just keep it real. There's a lot of high school girls that hang out at those parties and everything. You're setting yourself up for a situation that can be very, very ugly if you end up being intimate with that person.
Yeah.
So you got to be very, very careful when you're out there meeting those girls and who you meet and who you're talking to. And you got to also make sure that you're very careful. We're in the age of someone can cry rape at any time, in any situation, and make this a whole ugly situation. So just be very, very careful and be very tentative of what's going on in the situation, because all that stuff is real. It is absolutely real. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
Those are things I would do. Yeah, I would approach it.
Well, no, what I was going to say is this is funny to think about now, but it actually a very serious situation because it cost this young student athlete. We had a kid that bounced back from San Jose State, really good player, getting off the ball. He was a defensive tackle. He's a 3, possibly a 1 tech monster, absolute monster. And so he's getting recruited by other D1 schools. So for you viewers at home, went to a Division I school, bounced back, meaning something happened at that school, ends up, they cut him or whatever the situation may be. I don't remember, but anyway, he decided to come back and play junior college. So the route is now you go to junior college. Now you're saying, okay, I got trouble, whether it's academics or whatever. Now I'm going to try to fix that problem. And then after 2 years, I'm going to get my AA and get recruited again. That's just how the JUCO route works, especially here in California. So anyway, so now he's getting recruited again by Division I schools. When I say Division I, I mean money schools, right? Yep. Big schools, a lot of people in the stands, everything everybody wants. He shows up to a visit, no shirt on, no sandals, just what I'm like, what are you doing, dude? Yeah. I found out later on. I wasn't, of course, in the meeting, but. And, at these junior colleges, you have a ton of big schools that are coming to check out kids that they may have failed somewhere and they want to come and get a guy right now. And so I don't remember if it was UMass or it was Oregon or it was a big school. And let's be honest, viewers, what do you think you would do if you were a business owner and somebody rolled in smelling poorly, didn't have their shirt tucked in, tie it and all the way? There's the little things you have to do to put yourself in a position to be successful. And that's what we're talking about with a visit when a school comes and how you present yourself. We can talk about transcripts and talk about all that stuff, but there's a physical aspect of it. Eye contact, handshakes, engagement, interest, stuff like that. And so I just really wanted to throw that in there because there are many of those stories, more than you think, of simple, stupid little things that you think, oh, well, why would he do that? They don't know any better, dude.
They don't. But that's what I'm saying. Well, parents got to come into place, right? It's a business trip. And I'm not picking on about the Polynesian culture, right? Their culture is where they wear like the skirt, the kind of the things that look like skirts.
Lava.
Lavas, and they wear, flip flops. And that's kind of just where they go, right? That's their culture. But if you don't understand their culture and they come out like that, and they feel comfortable they can do that, they feel that's okay. Where another person's perception would be like, what are they doing? Why are they wearing that? Why is this big guy wearing that? So you got to be cautious. It's a business trip, and you got to also understand your audience, right? Most of these guys, let's be honest with you, when you're going, the recruiting coordinator may be young, but the head coach is typically an older white guy, right? For majority of the schools, an older white guy. He doesn't understand. He doesn't understand rap music with all that profanity. He doesn't understand you having your pants sagging. He doesn't understand you having long braids. He doesn't understand you having tattoos all over your face and your neck. They don't get that part. And that part right there can be detrimental to your scholarship because you're not a good player, not even because you're not a good person. They don't understand where you're the perceptions that you're throwing out there. So you got to dress to the part, right? If you're going to a job to work at Microsoft, you're not going to be having your pants sagging. You're not going to be wearing all that. You're not wearing Air Force Ones or Dickies, and you're not wearing a wife beater. No, you're going to dress someone. You're going to have a business, a button-up shirt on, or at least a collar shirt on, some pants that fit, some shoes, and you're gonna handle yourself in the best manner. And I know kids will like, I'm trying to change. I'm not gonna be a sellout. I'm not gonna change myself. Well, unfortunately, if you want this job, you're gonna have to conform. It's not selling out; it's conforming to the environment that they want you to be in.
Yeah.
Now, once they get to know you, they'll be more comfortable who you are, and you're able to wear those things. You're able to do those things. But in the meantime, until you get to that point, it needs to be a business trip. I encourage you to get a haircut. Make yourself look nice and neat. Make sure you look fine. Make sure the attire that you're bringing is cool. Make sure you don't have any gang affiliated stuff that's going on. That's happened before too. I know I've heard that before too. Make sure you don't have any of those things. Anything that's a negative perception, don't have it when you're on a trip.
Yeah.
You can't afford it. You can't afford it if that's what you really, really want. And it's not being a sellout. I hate when people say, oh, I'm not selling. I'm not changing for nobody. Unfortunately, everybody has to conform at some point. And you can either conform at the college level, or you can be that person that never conforms and be conformed in prison.
Yeah.
But you have to conform.
Let's talk the business end of recruiting. Okay. So obviously we're talking about visits, we're talking about all that kind of stuff, but Let's talk about the business end. I want to really touch on showcases in a little bit. Make sure
Yeah,
don't let me forget
gotcha.
that. That's huge. That's a real popular thing, 7-on-7 stuff like that. Let's talk about the business end of recruiting. The first thing that really comes up into my mind is emails and social media,
Hmm.
because social media is number one, but also emails are a big thing because it can put your personal information, put your recruiting profile together, and you can send that out.
Hmm.
Obviously, we'll give you the viewers more or less just kind of an 30,000-foot overview of what
Yeah.
to put in those emails, but more importantly, when to send emails. So let's talk about emails and how important they are. Obviously, it's got your resume, everything
Yep.
that you are and what you're about, your transcript, highlights, height, weight, your school that you go to, your full name, by the way. A lot of
Mm. Yeah.
I don't, it's just anyway, full name. If you want to put your social media handles and stuff like that, you can. I don't think coaches don't really get too fired up about that, but your personal contact information, your emails, your email information, and your coach's email and contact information. Um, but you want to make sure and have all that information dialed in one place so coaches can get to it right then and there when it comes time to do your evaluations.
Mhm.
There are times, you viewers don't know this, but there's a lot of times where coaches, it's only evaluation time, where
Yep.
they just put all that time into players and just evaluating, and they're going to have thousands of information in front of them. And those graduate assistants, Zach Shapiro, shout out, when he was at SDSU, his eyes were bleeding because he was putting all the database in,
Mhm.
and so when coaches are going through their big board and evaluating players to who their top guys are and so on, they want to have it right there and then and there and have access to that NCAA clearinghouse information too. Forgot about that. That's huge. Because that'll have all your grades and everything on there. And grades, they want to know that stuff right then and there. But anyway, with that being the case, emails, right? So coach has come and visited you, Coach Allen wants your kid. First thing you do is, in my opinion, as a coach, you probably will say the same thing. Shoot them an initial email. Let's say they already know you. If they don't know you right at this point, right, you're a junior and you want to get that first initial email, everything I just told you, put it in that email and send it right out and be as cordial as possible. Now, where do we find those emails? That's a good question, right? Go to a website. All their emails are on there. What coaches do you email? Get the lower level coaches, the ones that are looking to make their way up,
Yep.
right? So you go and you find a player personnel, you find somebody in the recruiting department, but you find somebody a lower level coach, a tight ends, or someone down the bottom that's looking to make their way up a GA.
Mhm.
And trust me, if they see that and they're like, wait a minute, I might have something here. What do? They go send it right to
Mhm.
that coach's desk. But that's your initial email that says, hi coach, I'm so and so, you don't know me, whatever. But then you go down that line. I'm going to have you dig into these in a second. And then you have your follow-up emails, right? When a coach finally gets contact with you
Mhm.
and you send your follow-up, thanks for XYZ. Here's all my contact information. You make sure they have every piece of information
Mhm.
you possibly imagine and multiple times over. And that is just from the sense of just the personal contact. I always recommend, and we're going to talk about it in a second, showcases at camps, making sure email them before camps,
Mhm.
email them after camps, thanking them, and then so on. If you haven't had any contact, of course, in the springtime, then you email them again.
Yep.
But having that initial email is key, and I want you to dig into emails and how important they are.
Yeah, I think also not only to the emails, do the recruiting questionnaires, and that's
Yeah,
even better. If you
yeah,
can do the recruiting questionnaires along with the email, the recruiting questionnaire will automatically put them in the database because that's what
yeah,
that's set up for to go directly into their database. And then number two, the follow up the email is just for them to get to know who you are and build that relationships. I think you hit spot on everything that needs to be included in there: name, height, weight, school, and all that other stuff that needs to be in there. Also, you got to be careful. You need to keep a list of all the schools you're recruiting. I'll say
yeah,
learn how to do spreadsheet Excel. List all the names of the schools you do. List all the people that you sent your email to and the date you sent it off to. So you can start getting the timestamp of when they respond to and when they don't respond to you,
yeah,
and then start to figure that part out, that piece out. Once you get all that stuff, so now you're setting yourself up to be able to manage and monitor your recruiting process, like where you're going and who you sent it to, who responded to you, and what's engaged there, and start to gauge their interest as they talk to you to figure it out. Again, also in that email, what he said, state on the bottom of that email, hey, I completed your online recruiting questionnaire. If you put that on there, because the next thing he's going to say, because those coaches don't want to input it themselves. They don't want to input it themselves, especially when you get 1,000 emails. If you've already done that and taken that initiative and you told them to do that, they're going to be like, okay, cool, he's already in there. I'm not got to worry about it. Let me look at his film real quick, and then I'll give it the nay or say or forward it on or whatever I got to do. Those are just little tricks to be able to build that relationship for. Who you email it to, like you said, I would look at the people that are lower level. Me personally, I contact everybody. If anybody has an email listed in that football staff, I'm sending an email, including the equipment person. I want everybody to know who, somebody in there to look at it. Now, is that always the popular thing? No, but that's what I would do because I need to get somebody to look at my film and be interested in it. And I don't know who's what recruiting area and who's what position coach there is. So I try to email everybody. If they have an email listed, I'm going to email it to them. And go from there. And the way you do that is you go to the staffing directory on the athletic department, and then they should be able to list all football and list all their emails that are there. That's the legwork you have to do. The one thing I want parents to be cautious of, I know there's a lot of services that say they do it for you, like NCSA. I'm not a big fan of theirs. I'm not a big component of theirs. I think they charge parents and kids way too much money to do something you can easily do yourself, and they're not very effective at it at all. They're not. They just send this thing. They sit your information on a website and they just let people just come and visit it. If they like it, they like it. And when you get signed, they rant and rave like they did something big, which is really not that big of a deal. Owning their email directory is nothing. I can create an email directory in 5 minutes and send it out to everybody every 5 minutes. So that's not a big deal. You shouldn't be paying thousands of dollars just for somebody to add your name to an email directory, in my opinion. So that part I wouldn't do. I wouldn't recommend you do, but to each his own. But I would say you definitely have to do the email thing. You have to get in contact with coaches. You have to fill out questionnaires. I hate when these college coaches say they go to these schools, they give these kids and tell them to fill out the questionnaire, and they don't fill it out. They have to fill those things out because it helps them make their recruiting job a lot easier. And you initiating the contact via email just shows how strong and shows how much interest you have in that school. So if you have the talent and the skill set, then they will follow up. They will follow backwards.
Yeah. So when I talked about the initial email and you have your follow-up email, that also goes to, it also carries over to social media. So I guess that's an easy way to carry over into social media. So I'm going to break down kind of what I think should be on your pages. And that's my big thing, but making sure that you go and find these coaches, especially on Twitter or X, whatever it's called, because they're every single one's on there. That's a good way to see something quick, fast, and then move on. Now, what I was saying is when you initially reach out to them, it's the same thing as that initial email as best as you can, because there's only so many characters, I believe. Maybe not. It may change a little bit with the DMs. But all coaches want to have you come be a part of their, their system. All of them. That's an easy way to just recruit. And all coaches in an airport or at the park with their parents with their kids or whatever, they're on social media. They're if they tell you they're not, listen, man, I interview guys all the time, and they say, "Oh, I'm not. I don't really do that, dude." I have them all on my thing. They're all on.
Yep. My son's a coach, and he's on his phone. He gets home at 7 o'clock from probably 7 to like 9:30 at night. He's on his phone when we're driving around having lunch. He's checking his phone and doing. So they're always on it, and that's the way they keep in contact, and the way they keep on top of things that are going on. So you're absolutely 100% right, Coach.
Yeah. Well, and then also nothing changes. They reach out to you, you follow up with them. Some of them, I don't remember the rules. I think Division I, you have to reach out first or something. There may be some screwy things in there. Be patient with it. Because there are times where coaches are going to be obviously busy during the season and spring, whatever. They're just not going to put a lot of time into the recruiting at certain times. So that's also another thing to maybe check out is, check out the NCAA website. They have a timeline. I'll definitely link it on here. When they're recruiting, when they spend the time getting out there, there's dead periods, whatever. I won't go into that, but just making sure that you're DMing coaches and making sure that, you have your initial contact, be respectful. And then of course your follow-ups. And that doesn't change, when it comes to camps and things like that. I'll talk about it in a second. I keep saying that, but with your Twitter, I'll just say this. number one thing, you guys need to stop with this fake names with the money signs and stuff like that. Put your put your information on there. And then also get rid of followers and people you're following that have nothing to do with your goals, have nothing to do with your dreams of moving forward. It's such a detriment when you're going down your timeline and you're seeing all this crap on there that's distracting, and it takes away from what you're doing. And also, when you're posting things on there, coaches are going to say, oh, okay, well, and then they're going to start scrolling down there. And if you got stuff with money and your pants hanging off, and I've seen this before, carrying weapons and dirty stuff like that, get off it, dude. But make sure in your profile, you only have so much to put on there. Put the important stuff. We talked about it a minute ago. I won't go too into it, but got to make sure that your all your information's on there. Here's a little tidbit that a lot of kids make mistakes on. Your avatar, your picture, make sure it's something sporty. That's what's going to stop coaches when they're going through. They'll all click on your information. You got to have a good avatar. Are you doing something sporty? And then
I got one for you. Instead of that, create a QBR code and make that be your picture. A QBR code is probably the way, and that takes them directly. That QRB code should take them to something you have online that has your profile information, even if it just takes them to your LinkedIn. I mean, to your huddle.
Yeah,
include your huddle link, but also have that QBR code there because that lets them know, oh, there's a different information on this kid. Let me go ahead and find it, and have it all out there. I think that's a big one. That's one of the ones I saw that I was like, man, that's pretty ingenious to remove anything to say my QBR code. And then he had a little caption. If you need additional information, click on the QBR code. Everyone has an iPhone, so all they have to do is focus on it. It takes you right there to the information, and it's a little bit unique. And like you were saying, all those things you need to include. Also, if you do have a clearance house number, include that on your profile. Like that's super duper important to include your clearinghouse number on there because they already know that you're registered for one. That's a good thing. And two, their assumption is that you're already taking all the classes you need to be able to get yourself on par to be academically eligible, to be able to participate in NCAA sports. So I didn't mean to interrupt you, Coach, but I think those are two things they can kind of utilize, make themselves a lot really unique by creating a QBR code, and then also, like you said, removing everything that doesn't matter to you and your progress. Anything that's sexually explicit, anything that's gay bashing, anything that I don't even put in. I would tell kids, don't even put anything with a political view. Don't have no political view. Don't have nothing on there that doesn't have anything to pertain to football. And also, those friends that you have, because some friends are funny and jokes and want to send you stuff. Unfortunately, in that Twitter feed you have, they need to be removed. And I would encourage you. I don't encourage you to do that, have that behavior on any social media. But if you have social media where you have your personal stuff on there, you have one that's your football stuff and your professional, I encourage you to go ahead and create too. And again, I can't harp on this enough. Parents need to monitor their accounts.
Yeah.
They need to be looking, viewing, and seeing what's going on those accounts and catch them before their kid catch them. Because your kid may think, oh, it's just a rap song, it's funny. But if the rap song is talking about killing and all that stuff, you never know what that middle-aged white coach is going to think about if he sees that or if he hears that.
Yeah.
It may leave a bad impression. You may just say it's just music. He may not think it's just music. So you got to be very, very careful how you monitor all this information. And parents, you think it's intrusive? I think it's an investment in your child's sports future. Monitor it. Monitor it. Go ahead, Coach. Sorry about that.
No, you're good. That's perfect. Yeah. And so also one thing I would just say is you want to make sure and pin your highlights on your timeline. So one thing that people don't do. Now, remember, a coach may be somewhere where they don't have a lot of good receptions. So if they click on the link that sends it to the huddle, all of a sudden they can't pull it up. It takes time. They got advertisement, whatever. But if you have it on your Twitter at the top pinned, when they get onto your page, bam, it just gets started. And then, coach can just do an evaluation right then and there. And I won't go too much into highlights, but I'll just say make sure that your highlights are dialed in. Your first couple plays have got to jump off it's got to jump off. I even say, the first thing is right away. Coaches they'll wait past that first frame, but the first frame has to have a lot of your contact information if you can put it on there, which you can. Because the next thing is then all of a sudden, boom, he's got a huge play, you got a huge block, whatever. So you want to really make sure and update that and dial that in as much as you can throughout your career through high school. And I would just say one thing: do not do that pisses me off more than anything. I don't want your 7-on-7. I don't want your practice. I don't want all that garbage on there. You want to get a coach to never come back? Do that. That's a fact. And I'm going to tag this. I promise you. That is one of the worst. And so anyway, that's just a little dive into the highlights. And a couple more things before I get you out of here, Coach. I would just say, let's talk about these off-season camps. Not 7-on-7. That's competition, and that doesn't do you really any solid. But let's talk about camps, showcases. You're involved in this whole thing early, right?
Yeah.
Let's say you're getting in this recruiting thing early. Say you're a junior, you're going to be a senior, or a sophomore, you're going to be junior, whatever. Let's talk about camps. Are they important? Are they not important? Let's talk about how to figure out what camps to go to.
Yeah. Camps can be important. Like, it can be. They can be important and they can be useless. Mega camps. I'm always very skeptical of mega camps. And when I mean by mega camps, I'm talking about when they have like 40 or 50 schools there and there's like 800, 900 kids that are registered that are participating there. You got to ask yourself the question, are they really going to get a chance to evaluate all 800 kids that are here participating in this camp? And the answer is no. They have a selected few they want to look at, and they may stick around if someone really, really jumps off the board that wasn't originally on their list, but 9 times out of 10, that's never going to happen. I think the important camps are when you attend school camps. Now, for parents, unfortunately, that can be a little bit pricey. But I think if your kid is really actively being recruited and he really likes certain schools, he needs to contact that school or look on that school and go to that particular school's camp. Yeah. That will put him on the board, because that part he will be able to meet the staff there. He'll be able to work with the staff there. They'll tell him what he needs to develop and work on, and then he can start to build those relationships. All this is about relationships. Recruiting is really about relationships a lot of the time. So he can build those relationships to show how good he is in being camps. I know that I talked to a couple of coaches, and they say we typically offer more kids so they attend our camps than kids that don't. Like, if they attended our camp, then we're really going to be on our radar, because they show they have a vested interest in our program and they want to be a part of us. But again, that can be pricey. I do believe, though, that the camps do have a place for them. I think the place for them that they get people your official measurables. They can get some official times on you if possible. I think also when you go to camps as student athletes, you can't be afraid, right? You can't be afraid that your time is going to be slow. You can't be afraid that you're not going to catch a pass. You got to be able to maximize every rep and compete at everything you need to do, because that's just going to prepare you for when you get to that school camps and prepare you for everything you need to do. I think the worst thing I've ever seen, like when I used to work the Nike camp circuit, the one thing I used to hate is when kids didn't participate. Like, scouts used to get pissed off when kids didn't want to run the 40. And the question be like, well, if you don't want to run the 40 here, what makes you think I can count on you running the 40 in the game? If you're afraid to compete out here just because you may get a high or a low mark, what makes you think you ain't going to be afraid when you get in the game? It kind of shows an indicative of your character, right? That you're not willing to compete at any level, regardless of the circumstances. And it shows a lot. So if you're not ready to compete and not ready to do that, sometimes it may be better if you not go to those camps, especially not to those mega camps that's there. You guys aren't pros. These high school kids think they're pros and they're studs, and I don't have to do this and have to do that. But it starts to show it starts to embody the character that you are when you go to those things. So, like I said, it's kind of a catch-22 when you go to these mega camps. I'm just not a fan of them. I'm not saying they don't work. I'm just not a big fan of them, because I don't think you get that personal view and look that kids are looking for. And if I'm going to invest my money, I want my kid to be able to get looked at and review them. Also, don't be afraid to go to some of these D3 camps. Just because they say D3 doesn't mean there's not D1 coaches over there, and they know the talent that they're going to be able to land. Trust me, if you're a guy over there and you're shining and you're killing it, and let's say a Cal Lutheran camp, the word is going to get out to Division Ones that, hey, there was a kid at that camp that was just tearing it up. No one can stop him, and it's going to elevate that person's recruiting stars or recruiting possibilities as he attends. Obviously, parents, stay within your budget that you can do. But I really highly advise you to go to a school camp. Even if you can just go to one a year. Just go to one a year and make them go there, and preferably an overnight camp, because that even gives you more time with the staff and more time to prepare and more relationship building than just going to that day camp and then leaving that same day. If you can go to an overnight camp, it's even that much better. Those are very, very, all that stuff is very important in the recruiting process, because that could be the difference of landing your scholarship and not.
Yeah. Well, I'll give you my little take, when it comes to these camps and showcases is you're 100% spot on with the big camps. And I always say, a lot of times they're just money grabs.
Yep.
And you got to think about it. I was a running back in high school and in college, and running backs at those camps, you're going to have 50 plus, you'll have these crazy amounts and you're going to get 1 or 2 reps. I think a lot of kids, they go into it because they want to get the jersey or shirt or whatever it is. And they want to, take pictures and yeah, it's a good way to maybe network or, talk to kids from other schools and stuff like that. But it's also a way you can get in trouble, and you can also do a lot of stupid stuff, and they're expensive, and they claim that, the coach is going to hang out. He's going to call you. He's going to do, they're not going to do none of that stuff. It's just not going to, they're not going to do none of that. Yeah. No, for sure. And so my strategy for, explaining this to young student athletes is like, listen, depending on your geographic location, just find a couple camps that are local within, an hour and a half, 2 hours. And then make sure you email them beforehand. Just say, hey, if you're not recruiting me, don't know who I am, it's in that initial email. Just say, hey, I'm going to attend your camp. Give them that kind of quick little release. And then when you get there, like you said at the beginning of this podcast, have courage to go talk to them, spend time with them, because, at those bigger camps, like you mentioned, there's going to be 1,000 guys there, but you go to these ones, it could be 25 guys. It's always going to be way less. And it's going to be way more personable. And you're going to get, I guarantee you're going to get their information. They're going to give you everything they possibly have, and you can keep in contact with them. And if you're closer, think about it. Those coaches are already coming to your school anyway. So,
Correct.
Oh yeah, he came to my camp and he's a good guy, good, first impression, whatever, coach, whatever. So, and then also, when you're in these camps, and I'll ask you about this in just a minute, but how you conduct yourself in the camp, and you really, like Coach was saying, you want to make sure and you want to participate as much as possible. You definitely, what you want to do is you want to be, a hard worker, do everything you need to do. You don't need to be super vocal. I've talked to kids on podcasts, and they tell me all the time, kids will hurt themselves because they're throwing stuff, mad, spitting, just disrespectful. Bam, see ya. Coaches ain't messing with that, dude. Whether it's a single day or a 2-day, which, by the way, Brad's doing a bunch of camps out there in Kansas, and he takes them in the classroom now. And so they're starting to do it the right way with guys like that. So if any of you viewers are paying attention, watching this, we'll definitely connect you wherever you are in the country. And there are some good camps, but sometimes it's important to maybe reach out and see what's up. And also,
I think you said something really important. The coach was like, you need to go to a camp where you can maximize your reps.
Yeah.
In a mega camp, you're not going to. You, like you said, you're only going to get 2 or 3. And then you're telling me, and I go, you got to ask yourself this question as a recruit. Do you really think a D1 school is going to recruit me off of 2 reps?
Yeah.
No, they're not. They can't even evaluate you off 2 reps. They don't even know. And half the time, the ball's going to get overthrown or underthrown. It's going to be hard for you to make a play in those 2 plays. So you need to go to a school camp where you can maximize your reps, where you're going to get plenty of reps to showcase your skills. And then you guys got to be really open to feedback. You got to ask the coaches, hey, coaches, what do I need to work on? What do I need to get better? What do you want to see from me during the season that I can showcase you, that I can play at this level? Yeah. I think once you, again, being engaging and asking those questions, if you can ask those questions and be on that and build that relationship with that coach, those are the things. But like you said, I thought that was a really key point. You got to go to a camp where you can maximize your reps. Because if you don't, like you said, it was just a money grab. Your parents just paid $100 for you to go get 2 reps and run drills. You could have did that in your backyard with your little brother.
Yeah.
And it cost you nothing.
Cool shirt.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, you're 100% right. And I always tell kids, it's like, you know what, in the camp, in the middle of drills, or not in the middle of drills, in between drills, go and grab the coach. I mean, there's always a time where you're going to go grab water or anything like that. And that's a good time to go and chit chat, because those coaches come together and they talk about who they like. Right. It always happens. And so I think that's key. And then, of course, when the camp's over, whether it's a 1 or 2 day camp, definitely go up to whoever the coach is that you reach out to, hopefully all of them. But just say, hey, like you just said, what do I need to work on? Get their personal information. And then, just stay in contact. And then you have that follow-up email afterwards. Say, thank you. It was a great camp. Had a lot of fun. Here's my information, just so you know. Let me know when you're coming by my high school. I definitely like to spend some time, just chit chat, sitting down with you. I don't know. just, word it however you want to word it.
Mhm.
And try to enjoy it as much as you can, but pick a couple of them. And also, hey, by the way, before we get out of here, I would just say, with these camps and with anything, parents, get out of the way. If you get involved, you're going to create a lot of problems. Not all the time,
Mm.
but you are not a coach and you don't need to be on the field. Let the coaches do their thing and let them spend time with the kids, get to know the kids.
Mhm.
You can hurt yourself. And I got an ebook coming out, and it's all about you parents getting your butt out of the way, because trust me, you want to be involved, but you
Yeah.
want your kid to be able to develop and understand and go through the process that they need to go. Because you ain't going to be going to school last time I
Oh, man.
checked.
I tell parents to funnel the information through their kid. Like,
Yeah.
funnel it through your kid. Like, if you like
Yeah.
feedback after a camp, tell it to your kid after the camp, and display either your excitement or your disappointment through your kid after the camp to your kid, and tell them the proper things to do in order to correct that, or
Yeah.
be better in that situation. Information that you want to know, funnel it through your kid to ask the coach in order to get the information and relay it back to you. Now, and I always tell parents, definitely listen in on the phone calls when you're talking to a recruiting coach. But if you have a question, write it down next to your son and have your son ask that question, and you guys can both hear the information. I think that's a great way to start teaching your kids how to, one, talk to coaches, and two, how to be able to grab that information. And that way, as a parent, you're involved. You're involved in every aspect of it, but it funnels through your child to be able to grab the information. And that way, there's no loss in transparency, right?
Yeah.
Your kid's relaying the message you want to leave to the coach. Coach is relaying it to your kid, and you guys are all hearing it at the same time. A good coach, a good recruiter is going to say, "Put your parents on the phone so I can talk to everybody and I can answer their questions." But if
Yeah.
not, funnel the questions through your child for him to understand, and what kind of questions he can figure out how to ask, and all those things. And those, as you do one, it goes on. And I encourage kids, listen, if you guys are out there, go to D3s. If a D3 is recruiting you, go there and at least use that as your practice. Hey,
Mm-hmm.
go to the D3 or go to your local JC that's recruiting you, and sit in their office and talk to the coaches and use that as your practice gauge. So when you go to another school, you know exactly what to ask, how to ask, what body language you need to get practice on the eye contact and all those things with those local schools that are recruiting you, or those smaller schools, so to prepare you for those bigger schools. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? If the opportunity of a bigger school comes, but definitely, man, utilize every opportunity. In my day, we only got to go on 3 recruiting trips. If it was like today, where it's unlimited, man, I'd have went on every last one of them, talking to every coach, and just getting a better feel to see what other opportunities were out there for me,
Yeah.
before I made a decision. So just another word of advice. Sorry about that.
Yeah, and I would just say to maybe land the plane here, that I think kids give up too early. I think, like, it goes back to that question of how good are you?
Hmm.
And I think when a kid doesn't get something from a school that you want to go to, which typically is the biggest school, their buddies got all these opportunities. You see it on Twitter. I'm blessed to receive all of its smoke and mirrors. But if a kid does, if you are in the spring and it's late and you think that all hope is lost and you're going to go a different direction, different route, that's why we're here telling you that there's always movement, especially with the portal, especially with D2, D3, NAIA, and junior college, which we were talking about earlier, is a fantastic opportunity to develop and so on. And you get to play, right? You
Hmm.
get to play right away for the most part. But it's important to not give up on the process regardless. We are in June, almost July. I promise you, I've had guys all the way into late May get picked up at the highest level, at least at walk-on opportunities, whatever.
Hmm.
But there's always coaches recruiting nonstop. And
Yep.
so things happen, something happens, kid gets his girlfriend pregnant, all of a sudden, or
Hmm.
gets arrested or something, or that it doesn't matter. It
Yep.
will happen. It does happen. And that's what we're here to encourage you guys to keep pushing forward with it, because there are opportunities and we want you to go from that 80% to 10% to play.
Yep.
Don't think you got to go to Big O Tires and it's over.
No, no, it's not. It's definitely not
Yeah.
over. If you're
Yeah.
persistent with it, and persistent and consistent with it, there are opportunities for play. And I can speak for the city of San Diego because I know the
Yeah.
talent pretty well.
Yeah.
I think for every senior, if you really, really want to play, there's a place for you to play. You just got to find which one it is. And it may not always be
Yeah.
Division 1. It may be Division III or something, but there is an opportunity if you really want to play college football at the next level. Again, you got to just trust the process, invest in yourself, invest in mentors, invest on information, and then present yourself in that way and work yourself hard, and everything will happen. And just give a school a chance, man, because you're going to somewhere, a small area, a small rural town. Don't shut the door completely because that's the one that's offered you. That might be the best possible opportunity for you to blossom and grow. Because at the age of 18 and 19 years old, you're still in the process of developing, right? And
Yeah.
that might be just a slow enough environment, good enough environment for you to do it, or junior college may be the right environment for you. One of those opportunities may be the right environment for you, but you got to find your niche and go through it, you know, and include your parents. I'm a big advocate of having parents involved. Like,
Yeah.
have them involved in the decision making, have them involved in talking, have them involved in what's best for you, and trust your parents' decision, man. Your parents got you this far. Don't all of a sudden say, "I don't want to go there. It's small. It's way out, and it's all in Kansas. I don't want to go there." Well, ask your parent, like, "Would you think this would be a good opportunity for me?" And see
Yeah.
what's going, man. Don't be so resistant. Don't be so resistant to change, because that's the only constant going to be in your life is change. And number two, sometimes you need to embrace it, right? It may be a great opportunity for you. Weigh out all the options. Like I said, write it down, what you like, what you don't like, and then go from there before you close the door. And too many of us everywhere across this country, the kids close the door before they can even get it to open.
Yeah.
Give yourself an opportunity, man, because I can tell you right now, this football has an expiration date for everybody. No
Yeah.
matter if you make it all the way to NFL, there's an expiration date. Let's maximize. Let's prolong that expiration date just as far as we possibly can.
Yeah. No, absolutely, man. And listen, guys, I want to say thank you, Coach Allen, for coming on. A lot of valuable information. I'll cut it up as much as possible and just blow this thing up. And we got a lot of big things coming down the pipe. If you're in San Diego, obviously check out Sdfnl, and everything that Coach Allen's doing. NBA, right? NBA
The NBA
sports
Sports one,
promoting.
yeah, that's
Yep.
us. So we got a lot of things going on, man. I just appreciate the community support and what we do, and having people like Coach Z be involved somewhere in our program. And again, we're all about sharing information, man. We call it the power of no. If I can give you the power of no, then you can make a sound decision on whatever it is. And that's our main goal. Give you the power of no and the power of information so you can make a sound decision based on your future.
Yeah. Check out Coach Allen on all the social media sites. He's out there on Twitter, Instagram, right? You're probably on Facebook too.
Yeah.
I know you're on YouTube. I'm not sure. You might,
Yeah.
here and there, right? But
I'm everywhere,
yeah.
man. I'm on PPR. I'm on PPR on when season starts. That's a
Mhm.
local TV show. I have a podcast
Yep.
called Team No Sleep. Check that out. We talk about the social impact of sports, and we're always constantly talking about NCAA information. Or just reach out to me personally if you guys have any questions or any information. I'll be more than
Yep.
share the much as my knowledge as possibly can. If I don't have the answer, I will get it for you because I have enough people in the industry that can help me out.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, go check out Walk Dash on Warrior at YouTube. You got to put the dash in there because it sent you to some weird thing. But Walk Dash on Warrior on YouTube. Check me out on IG, Twitter, Facebook. We're just going to keep dialing it in. I'm dropping a podcast every single week and a lot of content. Keep in mind, it's free.
Yep.
So definitely dig into that. Also, I'm going to have some ebooks. We're going to put those out online. Going to have a website up soon. Also going to have a course online to basically break it all down for you and make it as simple as possible to put you in a position to be the most successful you possibly can be. And so it's all about being prepared for that next level if you so choose to take that direction, and hopefully you do. And so, like I said, reach out to both of us. Definitely want to be a mentor. I want to be able to help all you guys out there, not just in San Diego, but throughout the entire country. And as also to your parents too, if you guys have questions too. But listen, Montel, I like to finish the podcast always this way. And listen, it's not about us. It's not about me. It's not about Coach Allen. It's about you guys. We'll see you guys on the next episode.
Absolutely.